Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching Earth grow smaller in the viewscreen. The blue planet that had been home to humanity for thousands of years was now just a dot of light among the stars. He felt a mix of excitement and fear as he thought about the mission ahead. 2,000 people were counting on him to lead them safely into the unknown parts of the galaxy. The Horizon was the biggest ship humans had ever built. It was 3 miles long and carried everything. Needed to start a new colony far from Earth. Dr. Lisa Carter walked up beside the captain, her tablet showing readings from the ship's sensors. She had convinced everyone back on Earth that this mission would change everything for humanity. The outer rim of the galaxy held secrets that could make humans stronger and smarter than ever before. All systems are running perfectly, she said. To Morrison, the new engines are working better than we hoped. We should reach the outer rim in just 3 months instead of 6. Commander Alex Rodriguez joined them on the bridge. He was in charge of the 500 soldiers on the ship. His job was to keep everyone safe if they ran into trouble. The galaxy was full of different alien races, and not all of them were friendly to humans. The Zephyrians thought they were better than everyone else because their technology was so advanced. The Nexus Collective were like robots that shared one big mind, and they only cared about making money and being efficient. The crew is settling in well, Rodriguez reported. Everyone is excited about what we might find out there, or the scientists are already planning their first experiments. Engineer Ben Taylor was down in the engine room, making sure all the experimental systems were working right. The Horizon had technology that had never been tested on such a long journey. Some of the equipment was so new that Earth's best scientists were not completely sure how it would work in deep space. But that was part of the adventure. Humans had always been willing to take risks to learn new things. The first few weeks of the journey went smoothly. The crew worked together like a family. People from different countries and backgrounds shared meals and stories. Children played in the recreation areas while their parents worked to keep the ship running. Teachers held classes to make sure the young people would be ready for whatever they found at their destination. Dr. Carter spent most of her time in the science labs. She studied data from Earth's long-range sensors that had detected strange energy patterns in the outer rim. Most alien races avoided that part of the galaxy because their ships could not handle the dangerous radiation and gravitational fields. But Carter believed that was exactly why they needed to go there. The most important discoveries always came from places that others were afraid to explore. Back on Earth, Ambassador Elena Brooks was fighting to keep humanity's place in the Galactic Council. The Council was supposed to be a place where all the different races could work together peacefully. But in reality, the strongest races made most of the decisions. The Zephyrians and the Nexus Collective controlled the most important trade routes and had the most powerful weapons. Brooks had been Earth's voice on the Council for 8 years. She had watched other alien races look down on humans as a young and inexperienced species. Humans had only been traveling between stars for about 50 years. While some of the other races had been doing it for thousands of years, the aliens often acted like humans were children who needed to be told what to do. The human expedition to the outer rim is a mistake, said Ambassador Crix, the Zephyrian representative. His crystal-like body glowed with colors that showed his emotions. Right now, the colors showed that he thought humans were being foolish. No species has ever returned from those regions. Your people will be lost, and it will prove that humans are not ready for deep space exploration. Brooks kept her face calm. But inside, she was angry. Humans have always succeeded by going where others fear to go, she replied. We will prove that courage and determination are worth more than old technology and closed minds. The other alien representatives watched this exchange with interest. Some of them respected human bravery, but most thought the Zephyrians were probably right. The outer rim was dangerous, and humans were still too new to space travel to handle such risks. 2 months into the Horizon's journey, the ship reached the edge of known space. Beyond this point, their maps were blank. The stars looked different here, and their instruments detected energy readings unlike anything they had seen before. The crew felt both excited and nervous as they prepared to enter completely unexplored territory. Dr. Carter could barely contain her enthusiasm as she studied the sensor data. "Look at these readings," she told Captain Morrison. "The gravitational fields out here are doing things that should not be possible according to our physics. And these energy patterns. It's like something is calling to us." Morrison was more cautious. As captain, it was his job to think about the safety of everyone on the ship. "We'll proceed slowly and carefully," he decided. "If we run into anything we can't handle, we turn around and go home. But turning around would soon become impossible." As the horizon moved deeper into the outer rim, space itself seemed to change around them. Their communication equipment started having problems. Messages to Earth became fuzzy and hard to understand. Then, one day, they could not contact Earth at all. Ben Taylor worked day and night trying to fix the communication systems. He checked every wire, every circuit, every antenna on the ship. Everything seemed to be working perfectly, but no signals could get through the strange energy fields that surrounded them. It was as if they had entered a part of space that was cut off from the rest of the galaxy. "We're completely isolated," Taylor reported to the senior staff. "I don't know how to fix this. The problem isn't with our equipment. It's something about this region of space itself." The crew began to worry. Families gathered in small groups, talking quietly about what would happen if they could never return home. Some people wanted to turn back immediately, even if it meant giving up the mission. Others argued that they had come too far to quit now. Captain Morrison called a meeting of all department heads. They sat around a table in the conference room, looking at star charts that showed their position far from any known civilization. The silence stretched on as everyone thought about their situation. "We have enough supplies to last for years," Rodriguez finally said. "And if we find a suitable planet, we can start the colony as planned. We don't need to stay in contact with Earth to complete our mission." Dr. Carter nodded enthusiastically. "The readings I'm getting suggest we're close to something incredible, something that could change everything we know about science and technology. We can't give up now." But they did not know that back on Earth, their silence was being interpreted very differently. 3 months had passed without any word from the horizon. Earth's most powerful radio telescopes could detect no trace of the ship. Search vessels, sent to look for them, found nothing but empty space. Ambassador Brooks faced the Galactic Council with the terrible news. The Horizon and its 2,000 crew members had vanished without a trace. The alien representatives showed no surprise. Many of them had expected this outcome from the beginning. "This is exactly what we predicted," Ambassador Crix announced. "Humans are too young and inexperienced for such dangerous missions. Your species should focus on staying close to your home planet where it is safe." The failure of the Horizon mission marked the beginning of humanity's decline in galactic politics. Other races began to see humans as a species that took foolish risks and could not be trusted with important responsibilities. Trade agreements were canceled. Defense treaties were allowed to expire. Earth found itself increasingly alone in a galaxy full of alien civilizations that no longer took humans seriously. But somewhere in the outer rim, the crew of the Horizon was about to make a discovery that would change the galaxy forever. 5 years had passed since the Horizon disappeared, and the galaxy was becoming a very different place. The Zephyrian Empire had grown stronger and more aggressive. Their crystal ships now patrolled star systems that had once welcomed human traders and explorers. Ambassador Crix stood before the Galactic Council, his body glowing with the satisfied colors of victory. "The former human colonies in the Kepler sector require proper management," he announced to the assembled alien representatives. "The Zephyrian Empire will take responsibility for these abandoned territories. We will bring order and efficiency to systems that humans clearly could not handle." Ambassador Elena Brooks felt her hands clench into fists under the table. She had watched this happen dozens of times over the past few years. Every time a human colony faced problems or needed help, the Zephyrians would declare it abandoned and move in with their military forces. The colonists had no choice but to accept Zephyrian rule or leave everything behind. "Those colonies are not abandoned," Brooks protested. "They are populated by over 2 million human citizens who have lived there for generations. They have the right to govern themselves." The Nexus Collective representative, a tall figure covered in mechanical parts, spoke in its emotionless voice. Efficiency analysis indicates that human colonial management produces suboptimal results. Zephyrian administration will increase productivity by 37% within one standard year. Brooks looked around the council chamber for support, but most of the other alien races remained silent. The few species that had been friendly to humans in the past now seemed afraid to speak up. The balance of power had shifted too far in favor of the Zephyrians and the Nexus Collective on Earth. Director Paul Chen of the Colonial Defense Force stared at reports that grew worse each month. The loss of the Horizon had been devastating, not just because of the lives lost, but because it had destroyed humanity's reputation as a reliable partner in galactic affairs. Now, human colonies were being pressured to accept alien rule. Human merchants were being shut out of profitable trade routes, and Earth itself was becoming isolated. "Sir, we have another problem," his aide reported. "The Korthok raiders have attacked 3 more outer settlements this week. They destroyed the mining facilities on Titan 7 and captured 200 civilians." Chen rubbed his tired eyes. The Korthok were a violent species that had been raiding weaker civilizations for centuries. In the past, they had avoided human territory because other alien races would help defend Earth's colonies. Now, with humanity's allies gone, the Korthok saw human settlements as easy targets. "What about our request for assistance from the Council?" Chen asked, though he already knew the answer. "Denied again, sir." Ambassador Crick said that the attacks were natural selection in action and that humans needed to learn to defend themselves better. Chen stood up and walked to the window of his office. He could see the lights of Earth's capital city below, but he knew that fewer ships were landing at the spaceports each day. Human businesses were failing as alien competitors took over their contracts. Young people who had once dreamed of exploring the stars were now talking about staying on Earth where it was safe. The propaganda broadcasts from alien worlds made things even worse. Children on human colonies grew up hearing that their species was known throughout the galaxy as the one that had failed in the Outer Rim. The story of the Horizon's disappearance had become a cautionary tale that alien parents told their children. About the dangers of being too ambitious, Dr. Sandra Price, who had worked with Dr. Carter before the Horizon mission, now led Earth's remaining research efforts. She sat in her laboratory, looking at data from the few exploration ships that humanity still sent out. The ships were smaller now, and they stayed close to Earth. No one wanted to risk another disaster like the Horizon. "We're losing our edge," she told her assistant. 10 years ago, human technology was competitive with anything in the galaxy. Now we're falling behind because we're too afraid to take risks. The aliens are sharing new discoveries with each other, but they're leaving us out. The Nexus Collective had been particularly effective at cutting humans out of the galactic economy. Their hive mind could calculate trade routes and resource distributions with perfect efficiency. They had convinced many alien races that including humans in trade deals would reduce profits and cause unnecessary complications. Human emotional decision-making creates market instability, the Nexus representative had explained to the Council. Logical species benefit from more predictable trading partners. What this really meant was that humans were being replaced by aliens in business deals across the galaxy. Earth's economy was struggling as important resources became harder to obtain. The prices of rare metals and advanced technology were rising because human merchants could no longer compete with alien corporations. Meanwhile, Zephyrian military was expanding into systems that had once been neutral territory. Their crystal ships were beautiful but deadly, powered by energy sources that they refused to share with other species. The Zephyrians believed that they were naturally superior to all other life forms and that the galaxy would be better off. Under their control, the human experiment in deep space colonization has failed, Crix announced during another council session. It is time for more experienced races to take responsibility for galactic development. The Zephyrian Empire offers stability and prosperity to all species willing to accept our guidance. Brooks had heard this speech many times before. Each time, it seemed like more alien races were nodding in agreement. The fear of being left out of the new galactic order was stronger than any loyalty they had once felt toward humanity. On the colony world of New Boston, former Mayor Tony Williams watched Zephyrian ships land at the spaceport. The colonists had been given an ultimatum: accept Zephyrian administration or lose access to all galactic trade networks. Without trade, the colony would slowly die as its technology broke down and could not be replaced. They're offering us jobs. In their new government, Williams told his deputy, but we'll be working for them, not governing ourselves. Everything we've built here will belong to the Zephyrian Empire. Similar scenes were playing out on dozens of human worlds. Colonists who had spent their lives building new societies were being forced to choose between their independence and their survival. Most chose survival, but it came at the cost of their dignity and their dreams. The younger generation of humans was growing up in this new reality. Children who had been born after the Horizon's disappearance had never known a time when humans were respected members of the galactic community. They learned to keep their heads down around aliens and to accept that their species was... Remember, she told them, humans have always been explorers and inventors. We've overcome difficult challenges before, and we'll do it again. The Horizon crew didn't fail. They're just taking longer than expected to complete their mission. But even she was starting to doubt her own words. 11 years was a long time to be lost in space. If the Horizon crew were still alive, why hadn't they found a way to send a message home? Why hadn't they returned with the discoveries that Dr. D. Carter had promised would change everything? The truth was that most people, even on Earth, had given up hope. The Horizon had become a symbol of human failure rather than human courage. The galaxy had moved on without humanity, and it seemed like there was no way to earn back the respect that had been lost in the Galactic Council chambers. The seats reserved for human representatives were becoming less important. Other species barely listened when Brooks spoke, and her protests about unfair treatment were dismissed as the complaints of a dying civilization. Perhaps it is time for humanity to accept a smaller role in galactic affairs, suggested the ambassador. From the Altarian Republic, not every species is meant to be a major power. There is no shame in knowing your limitations. Brooks wanted to argue, but she knew that her words would fall on deaf ears. The galaxy had already decided humanity's fate. The question now was whether humans would accept this new reality or continue to fight for a future that seemed increasingly impossible to achieve. But far away in the outer rim, something was stirring that would soon change everything the galaxy thought it knew about human limitations. The morning started like any other at Earth's deep space monitoring station. Technician Gary Murphy sat at his console, drinking coffee and watching the endless stream of data from sensors pointed toward the outer edges of the solar system. Most days, nothing interesting happened. Ships came and went from the inner planets. Occasionally a small asteroid would drift close enough to trigger an alert, but today was different. At exactly 0847 hours, every sensor on Gary's panel lit up. At once, the computer system started beeping and flashing warnings about massive energy readings approaching from deep space. Gary nearly dropped his coffee cup as he stared at the impossible numbers on his screen. "Chief, you need to see this right now," he called to his supervisor. Chief Technician Maria Santos hurried over and looked at the readings. Her face went pale. "That energy signature is bigger than anything we've ever recorded. It's like a small star moving toward us." Within minutes, the alert had reached Earth's highest levels of government. Director Paul Chen was pulled out of a budget meeting and rushed to the command center. Admiral Kate Morgan, head of Earth's Space Forces, arrived just as the first visual images came through from the long-range telescopes. "Is that what I think it is?" Chen asked, staring at the massive shape on the main screen. The object was clearly artificial, but it was huge beyond anything humans had ever built. It was long and sleek like a ship, but it seemed to shimmer and bend light around its hull. Energy readings showed power levels that exceeded most planetary defense systems. As it came closer, its identity became impossible to deny. "Computer, run identification scan on approaching vessel," Admiral Morgan ordered. The computer's voice filled the room. Vessel identified as U.S. Horizon. Hull configuration altered. Mass increased by 130%. Energy output exceeds previous specifications by a factor of 12. A stunned silence fell over the command center. The Horizon had been gone for 11 years. Everyone had assumed the ship and its crew were dead. was returning home, but it looked nothing like the vessel that had left Earth more than a decade ago. The ship that approached Earth was transformed. Where the original horizon had been 3 miles long, this vessel stretched for nearly 6 miles. Its hull glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and parts of the ship appeared to be made from materials that bent and twisted light in impossible ways. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. Captain Jake Morrison's face appeared on the main screen, but he looked older and somehow different. His eyes held depths that suggested he had seen things beyond normal human experience. Behind him, the bridge of the horizon was barely recognizable. Strange symbols glowed on walls that seemed to be made of living metal. Earth control. This is Captain Morrison of the EU's horizon, requesting permission to approach. We have much to discuss. Director Chen stepped forward, his voice shaking slightly. Captain Morrison, this is Director Chen. Welcome home.
How?
We thought you were lost. Morrison smiled, but there was something mysterious in his expression. We were lost, Director, but we found something incredible. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about the galaxy. Request permission to enter Earth orbit for full debriefing. Permission granted, Captain. The whole world wants to hear your story. As the horizon moved through the solar system, its presence sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Zephyrian. Intelligence networks went into overdrive trying to understand how a primitive human vessel had not only survived in the dangerous outer rim, but had apparently grown stronger. The energy readings they detected defied everything they knew about physics and engineering. Ambassador Crix called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. His crystal body was flashing angry red colors as he addressed the assembled representatives. This development requires immediate investigation. No species has ever returned from the outer rim, and certainly not with enhanced capabilities. The humans must explain how they achieved this. The Nexus Collective representative processed the data with its mechanical precision. Probability of human technological advancement to observed levels 0.003%. Alternative explanations required. Back on Earth, crowds gathered around public screens to watch the horizon's approach. For 11 years, humans had lived with the shame of their failure in deep space. Children had grown up hearing that their species was not ready for the dangers of galactic exploration. Now, the most famous ship in human history was returning. Home as something magnificent and powerful. Dr. Sandra Price led a team of scientists to the orbital station where the horizon would dock. She had worked closely with Dr. Lisa Carter before the original mission, and she was desperate to understand what had happened to her old colleague and friend. When the docking was complete, the first person to step off the horizon was Dr. Carter herself. But like Captain Morrison, she had changed. She moved with a confidence that seemed to come from deep knowledge, and she carried devices that no Earth scientist had ever seen before. Sandra, it's good to see you again, Carter said with a warm smile. I have so much to show you. So much. To explain. What we found out there will revolutionize everything we know about science. Lisa, where have you been? What happened to you? That ship looks like it was built by aliens. Carter's smile grew wider. In a way it was. But the aliens? Who built the technology we've learned to use have been gone for millions of years. We call them the architects, and their knowledge has made us stronger than we ever imagined possible. Commander Alex Rodriguez had also changed during the 11 years in space. His military bearing was the same, but his eyes held the calm confidence of someone who had seen incredible things and lived to tell about it. When he met with Admiral Morgan, he carried data tablets that contained information that would reshape Earth's entire defense strategy. The galaxy is not what we thought it was, Rodriguez explained. The species we've been dealing with, the Zephyrians, the Nexus Collective, even the peaceful races are all using technology that's thousands of years old. They've forgotten how to innovate and explore. They've become comfortable and weak. Engineer. Ben Taylor had spent 11 years working with machines that seemed to think for themselves. The Horizon's new engine room was filled with devices that combined human engineering with ancient architect technology. The result was a fusion of innovation and wisdom that produced capabilities beyond anything the current galactic civilization could achieve. "We can travel faster than anyone else in the galaxy," Taylor explained to Earth's top engineers. "We can build ships from raw materials in days instead of years. We can defend ourselves against any weapon system currently in use. And this is just the beginning of what we've learned." But the Horizon's crew had brought back more than just advanced technology. They had brought back a warning that would change everything. Dr. Carter called a meeting with Earth's top leaders to explain the danger that was approaching. The architects didn't just disappear, she told the assembled officials. They left this galaxy because they knew something terrible was coming. A convergence event that happens every few million years. The galaxy's current civilizations don't know about it because they've never bothered to explore the places where the architects left their warnings. Director Chen leaned forward in his chair. "What kind of convergence event? Ancient systems are going to activate. Machines that have been dormant for millions of years will wake up. If the galaxy's current species don't understand how to control these systems, they could destroy every inhabited world in this part of the universe." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Horizon's crew had not just returned with new technology. They had returned with knowledge that could save or doom the entire galaxy. "How long do we have?" Admiral Morgan asked. "According to our calculations, the convergence will begin in less than 2 years, Carter replied. "We need to prepare not just Earth, but every species in the galaxy, whether they want our help or not." Outside, news of the Horizon's return was spreading throughout human space. On colonies that had been forced under alien rule, people looked up at the stars with hope for the first time in years. The ship that had once symbolized human failure had returned as proof that humans were capable of achieving the impossible. But in the halls of alien governments, fear was beginning to replace the arrogance that had defined their treatment of humanity for the past 11 years. The balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift once again. Dr. Lisa Carter stood before the largest gathering of Earth's scientists and military leaders in history. The main auditorium at the Global Defense Center was packed with people who had waited 11 years to hear this story. Behind her, a massive screen showed images that seemed impossible, yet were completely real. "What you're about to see will change everything you believe about our galaxy," Carter began. 11 years ago, we thought we were exploring empty space at the edge of known territory. Instead, we found the greatest archaeological discovery in human history. The first image showed a structure that defied easy description. It was enormous, bigger than Earth's moon, but it seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Parts of it appeared solid, while other sections flickered in and out of visibility. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with their own inner light. "We call them the architects," Carter continued. "They were the first intelligent species to achieve true mastery over space and time. They built an empire that spanned the entire galaxy millions of years before the Zephyrians or any other current species even existed." Engineer Ben Taylor took over the presentation, showing technical diagrams that made Earth's best scientists gasp in amazement. The architects didn't just build machines. They created technology that thinks and grows and adapts. Found their ruins, our equipment couldn't even detect them properly. But as we learned more, the architect technology began to respond to us. The audience watched in fascination as Taylor showed videos of the Horizon's transformation. The ship's hull had been gradually rebuilt by microscopic architect machines. New sections had grown from the original structure like living tissue. The engines had been replaced with power systems that drew energy from the fabric of space itself. "It took us 3 years just to understand the basic principles," Taylor explained. "The architects didn't just build tools, they created a symbiotic relationship between their technology and the species that used it. The more we learned, the more the technology trusted us with its secrets." Captain Jake Morrison stepped forward to address the military implications. "What we discovered wasn't just advanced science, it was a warning system." The architects left messages throughout the Outer Rim, telling anyone who could find them about a danger that threatens all life in the galaxy. The screen showed star charts marked with areas of space that pulsed with dangerous energy. Every few million years, ancient machines activate throughout the galaxy. These machines were built by a species that existed before even the architects. They're designed to reset galactic civilization by destroying all advanced technology and starting over. Admiral Kate Morgan leaned forward in her seat. Are you saying these machines could wipe out all life in the galaxy? Not all life, Morrison replied. But they would destroy every spacefaring civilization. Every city, every starship, every piece of advanced technology would be reduced to basic atoms. The survivors would have to rebuild from nothing. Dr. Carter returned to the stage with more disturbing news. According to our calculations, the next convergence event will begin in 18 months. The dormant machines are already starting to wake up. We've detected energy signatures in 12 different star systems that match the architect warnings. The room erupted in worried conversations as the implications sank in. Director Paul Chen stood up to address the crowd. What can we do to stop it? The architects must have left some kind of solution. They did, Carter confirmed. But it requires cooperation from every major species in the galaxy. The reset machines can be controlled, but only if enough civilizations work together using the proper technology. The architects left the tools, but we need everyone to use them. This was where the problem became clear. For the past 11 years, the galaxy's major powers had been treating humanity as a failed species. The Zephyrians had taken over human colonies. The Nexus Collective had shut humans out of trade networks. Most alien races now viewed Earth as a minor planet that could be safely ignored. Commander Alex Rodriguez had been preparing for this moment. We've tried the diplomatic approach, he announced. 3 days ago, Captain Morrison sent a formal message to the Galactic Council explaining the convergence threat and offering to share architect technology with all species. Their response arrived this morning. Ambassador Elena Brooks, who had endured years of humiliation at the Council, read the official reply. The Galactic Council demands that humanity immediately surrender all architect technology and submit to joint alien administration. They claim that humans are too primitive to be trusted with such powerful knowledge. The auditorium fell silent. After everything humanity had discovered, after bringing back the means to save the galaxy, the alien races still refused to treat humans as equals. They wanted the benefits of human sacrifice and exploration, but they wanted to control how those benefits were used. Morrison's voice was steady, but determined. We gave them a chance to do this the easy way. Now we'll have to show them that humanity is no longer the weak species they remember. Over the next few days, the true extent of human transformation became clear. The Horizon had not returned alone. Using architect manufacturing technology, the crew had been building new ships throughout their 11-year journey. Now, hundreds of vessels emerged from hidden positions throughout the Outer Rim. Each ship was a fusion of human engineering and architect science. They were faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything the current galactic powers possessed. But more importantly, they were crewed by humans who had spent over a decade learning to think like explorers and innovators rather than followers. The alien response was swift and predictable. Ambassador Crix called an emergency council session and declared humanity a threat to galactic stability. The humans have clearly been contaminated by dangerous alien influences, he announced. Their new technology poses a risk to all civilized species. We must act to contain this threat. Nexus Collective agreed with cold mechanical logic. Probability analysis indicates that human control of advanced technology will result in galactic instability. Immediate intervention is required to maintain optimal order. But when Zephyrian and Nexus ships moved to intercept human vessels, they discovered that the balance of power had shifted dramatically. The first confrontation occurred near the Jupiter system, where a Zephyrian battle group tried to force a human convoy to surrender. The Zephyrian commander was confident in his crystal ship's superiority. His weapons had dominated galactic conflicts for centuries. His shields could withstand the most powerful attacks known to modern science. He had never lost a battle against any species. The human ships didn't even slow down. Zephyrian energy. Weapons struck human shields and simply disappeared, absorbed by technology that converted the attacks into additional power for the human vessels. When the humans fired back, their weapons passed through Zephyrian shields as if they weren't even there. Impossible, the Zephyrian commander broadcast as his flagship systems began failing. No species has technology that can penetrate our defenses. You're right, came the reply from the human captain. No species in the current galaxy has this technology. But we learned from teachers who were building starships when your ancestors were still crawling in caves. The battle was over in minutes. Zephyrian ships were disabled, but not destroyed. The humans had made their point without unnecessary killing. They were no longer the weak species that could be pushed around by galactic bullies. News of the confrontation spread throughout the galaxy within hours. Alien governments that had ignored human warnings about the convergence suddenly found themselves facing a species that possessed technology beyond their understanding. The humans they had dismissed as primitives were now the most advanced civilization in known space, but the convergence was still approaching and time was running out. Deep space sensors detected more energy signatures as ancient machines continued to wake up. The galaxy had 18 months to either accept human leadership in preparing for the crisis or face destruction with their pride intact. In the end, some species would choose survival over arrogance. Others would learn the hard way that the universe doesn't care about political pride when extinction is the alternative. The galaxy was about to discover whether cooperation or conflict would determine its fate. The Zephyrian war fleet assembled at the edge of their home system was the largest military force they had ever gathered. Admiral Vex, their greatest military commander, stood on the bridge of the flagship Crystal Throne, surrounded by holographic displays showing over 3,000 ships. Each vessel gleamed with the crystalline technology that had made the Zephyrians the dominant military power in the galaxy for the past 500 years. The humans have grown too bold, Vex announced to his commanders. They dare to threaten species that were mastering space travel when their world was still covered in ice. Today we will remind them of their proper place in the galactic order. The Zephyrian plan was simple and brutal. They would strike at human colonies throughout the galaxy simultaneously, overwhelming Earth's defenses before the humans could coordinate a response. Their intelligence reports suggested that humanity had perhaps 50 ships with the new technology. The Zephyrians had 3,000. But those intelligence reports were 11 years out of date as the Zephyrian fleet moved toward human space. They encountered something that shattered their understanding of military logistics. What appeared to be a small human patrol of 12 ships turned out to be something far more dangerous. Each human vessel split apart as they watched, revealing that what looked like one ship was actually dozens of smaller craft held together by architect technology. Enemy numbers increasing, reported the Zephyrian tactical officer, confusion clear in his voice. 12 contacts now reading as 436 individual vessels. Admiral Vex watched in growing alarm as the human ships moved. In patterns that defied physics, they seemed to teleport short distances, appearing and disappearing as they wove through space. When the Zephyrians fired their most powerful weapons, the energy simply vanished into the human ships' hulls, making them glow brighter and move faster. All ships, concentrate fire on the lead human vessel, Vex ordered. 1,000 crystal ships opened fire at once, releasing enough energy to destroy a small moon. The human ship absorbed every blast and then returned fire with a single weapon. That passed through Zephyrian shields and struck the Crystal Throne directly. The flagship systems began shutting down one by one as architect technology rewrote their computer programs. Surrender your fleet and withdraw to your home system, came a transmission from the human commander. You have 30 seconds to comply, Admiral. Vex had never retreated from any battle in his 200-year career. Zephyrian warriors do not surrender to inferior species. All ships, ramming speed. The Zephyrian fleet charged forward in a desperate final attack. But as they approached the human ships, space itself seemed to twist around them. The humans had activated architect gravity manipulators that turned the Zephyrian momentum against them. The great crystal ships found themselves spinning helplessly through space, their crews unconscious from the gravitational forces. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, which had conquered dozens of star systems, and demanded tribute from hundreds of species, had been utterly defeated by a small human patrol. News of the victory spread throughout the galaxy faster than the speed of light, carried by quantum communication networks that buzzed with disbelief. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood before a room full of human military leaders, but his expression was grim rather than celebratory. The Zephyrian defeat was necessary, but it's not our real enemy, he told them. We have 14 months until the convergence begins. Every day we waste fighting the current powers is a day we're not preparing for the real threat. Commander Alex Rodriguez had been coordinating the defense of human colonies throughout the galaxy. His reports showed that other alien races were beginning to panic as they realized the implications of Zephyrian defeat. The Nexus Collective is pulling their fleets back to defensive positions around their core worlds, he reported. The Altarians are requesting immediate peace negotiations. Even the Korthok raiders have stopped their attacks on our settlements. But fear was not the same as cooperation. The galaxy's species were learning to respect human power, but they still refused to accept human leadership in preparing for the convergence. Pride and centuries of thinking themselves superior to humanity made it impossible for them to admit they needed help from the species they had once dismissed. Dr. Lisa Carter was working with teams of scientists on every human world, trying to adapt architect technology for the massive task ahead. The ancient machines that would soon activate were built on a scale that dwarfed anything the current galaxy had ever attempted. Stopping them would require cooperation between billions of individuals across thousands of worlds. We need manufacturing capacity that no single species possesses, she explained to Director Paul Chen during one of their daily briefings. The architect control systems require rare elements that can only be found in specific types of star systems. We need ships, personnel, and resources from across the galaxy, not just from human space. The solution came from an unexpected source. On the former human colony of New Boston, which had been under Zephyrian rule for 8 years, something remarkable happened. When news of the Zephyrian fleet's defeat reached the planet, the human colonists didn't celebrate. Instead, they immediately began working to help their former Zephyrian administrators understand the convergence threat. Former Mayor Tony Williams, who had spent years under alien rule, stood before a mixed audience of humans and Zephyrians. We don't have time for revenge or settling old scores, he told them. In 14 months, machines older than our civilizations are going to wake up. If we don't work together, everyone dies. Human, Zephyrian, it won't matter. The Zephyrians on New Boston were the first to break ranks with their empire's official position. Cut off from their fleet and facing the reality of the approaching convergence, they agreed to work with the human colonists to begin preparing their world's defenses. Their crystal technology, combined with human knowledge of architect systems, proved to be surprisingly effective. Word of this cooperation spread to other worlds where humans and aliens lived together. On mining stations, trading posts, and frontier colonies, practical necessity overcame political pride. People who faced the convergence together found ways to work together, regardless of their species. The Nexus Collective was the next major power to change course. Mechanical minds processed the available data and reached an inevitable conclusion. Cooperation with humanity offered a 67% chance of survival, while resistance offered less than 3%. Logic demanded that they negotiate. The negotiations took place on a neutral space station in the Centauri system. The Nexus representative, a tall figure covered in mechanical implants, spoke in its emotionless voice to Captain Morrison and his diplomatic team. Analysis indicates that Nexus collective manufacturing capabilities combined with human architect knowledge creates optimal probability for successful convergence response. It announced, propose immediate resource sharing agreement. Morrison had learned to appreciate the Nexus approach to problems. Agreed, but with conditions. No more attempts to exclude humans from trade networks. No more efficiency protocols that discriminate against any species. We work together as equals or not at all. The Nexus processed this for exactly 3 seconds, beginning immediate resource redistribution to support convergence preparation. Within weeks, Nexus factories throughout the galaxy were producing components designed from architect blueprints. Their efficient supply networks began delivering materials to human construction sites. The combination of human innovation and Nexus organization proved devastatingly effective. Other species watched these developments with growing alarm. Altarians, who had once been friendly to humanity before the Horizon's disappearance, finally swallowed their pride and requested permission to join the convergence preparation efforts. The peaceful guardians of the core worlds, the maritime cetaceans of the water systems, and dozens of smaller species followed suit. But some powers refused to bend. Korthok raiders saw the approaching chaos as an opportunity for conquest rather than a threat to be prevented. Several militant Zephyrian factions rejected their government's surrender and went rogue, attacking human ships and sabotaging convergence preparations. These holdouts discovered that the galaxy had changed in ways they didn't understand. Human patrol ships now worked alongside former enemies to protect supply convoys. Nexus battle computers coordinated with human tactical officers to hunt down raiders. Zephyrian crystal ships flew escort missions for Altarian science vessels carrying architect components. The new alliance wasn't perfect. Cultural differences and old grudges caused problems every day. But the approaching convergence provided motivation that overcame centuries of mistrust. Species that had never spoken to each other were now sharing technology and resources in a desperate race against time. With 6 months left until the convergence, Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Horizon as it led a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside Nexus vessels and reformed Zephyrian craft. The fleet carried scientists, engineers, and soldiers from dozens of different worlds, all working toward the same goal: